welcome to BNEWS Weekly. I'm Linda McNamee, in for Phil Gallagher. Joining me on this week's edition of BNEWS Weekly is BNews Director Rich Hosford, reporters Tad Stefanak, Chris Flaherty, and Robert Paris, Peter Brown with the weather, Liz Gillespie with sports, and Jolie Atwood with the community calendar. Burlington voters have cast their ballots in the 2020 presidential election, and the results are in. In an election that has seen record turnout across the country, Burlington was no exception when it came to a high level of returns. In total, 15,232 residents, or 87.1% of all eligible voters, cast ballots either Tuesday, in early voting, or by mail. In the last presidential race in 2016, a total of 14,219 votes, or 85.6%, were cast. In the presidential race between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden, Burlington voters cast 5,510 votes for the Trump-Pence campaign and 9,314 votes for the Biden-Harris ticket. This is how Massachusetts as a whole voted. In the Senate race between incumbent Democrat Ed Markey and Republican attorney Kevin O'Connor, Burlington voters cast 9,283 votes for Markey and 5,499 for O'Connor. This is also how the state went in this race. In the race for the 6th Congressional District, incumbent Democrat Seth Moulton faced off against Republican John Paul Moran, an MIT Space Telescope scientist who describes himself as a lifelong entrepreneur and business owner. Moulton garnered 9,228 votes in Burlington, and Moran received 5,513. On ballot question 1, to provide expanded access to wirelessly transmitted mechanical data relating to vehicle maintenance and repair, Burlington voters were in favor. A total 10,756 voted yes, and only 3,780 voted no. However, on ballot question 2, to create a system of ranked choice voting, Burlington residents were against the idea. 5,985 votes were cast for yes, and 8,455 were cast for no. Both State Representative Ken Gordon and State Senator Cindy Friedman were unopposed in this election. Due to the pandemic, this year's election looked a bit different. BNews reporter Tad Stefanak went to check out the polls and has this look.
It's Election Day 2020, and the Burlington polls are opened at Burlington High School.
The social distancing is going really well. I think everybody's kind of learned what to do and how to do it and, where to walk and where to stand. This is our third election under COVID, so we've had lots of practice. The turnout's been very, very good. We still did get about 11,000 ballots back via early voting in person or vote by mail. So we had about 6,000 people who haven't yet voted, but we're getting a good turnout today. And we have a lot of good election workers who volunteer and come for their times. We also have gotten my staff with some help, got 8,000 ballots mailed out, which was a big effort. And it is paying off. We currently have about 80% of our mail-out ballots back. So even that has been a big turnout. We're currently running about 1,200 people in person. So, we'll probably be at that 85 to 87% turnout.
Burlington displayed a healthy turnout at the polls, and with mail-in and early voting, has had their voices heard. This is BNews.
Thank you, Tad. As cases of coronavirus increase in the state, Governor Charlie Baker has issued updated advisories and orders that people should stay home at night as much as possible, wear face masks in public and restaurants, and other businesses should close early. Beginning on Friday, November 6th, all residents of Massachusetts are advised to stay home between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., with exceptions for work and school. Additionally, many businesses, including restaurants and liquor stores, must close at 9:30 p.m. There is an exception for restaurants that allow takeout and delivery later into the night. Governor Baker also signed an updated order relating to face coverings. The revised order requires all persons to wear face coverings in all public places, even when they are able to maintain 6 feet of distance from others. The revised order still allows for an exception for residents who cannot wear a face covering due to a medical or disabling condition, but it allows employers to require employees to provide proof of such a condition. It also allows schools to require that students participating in in-person learning provide proof of such a medical or disabling condition. Finally, Governor Baker also signed an updated order restricting gatherings. The new gatherings order reduces the gathering size limit for gatherings at private residences. Indoor gatherings at private residences are limited to 10 people, and outdoor gatherings at private residences are limited to 25 people. The new order also requires that all gatherings must end and disperse by 9:30 p.m. The new gatherings order also requires that organizers of gatherings report known positive COVID-19 cases to the local health department in that community and require organizers to cooperate with contact tracing. The gatherings order authorizes continued enforcement by local health and police departments and specifies that fines for violating the gathering order will be $500 for each person above the limit at a particular gathering. As is true with many traditions, things are different this year. Burlington Veterans Day ceremony will not be held in person, but instead will go virtual through a partnership with Burlington Veterans Services and BCAT. BNEWS Director Rich Hosford has this report.
As with many things these days, our traditions have had to be altered due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, it is still important to honor what needs honoring, and that is what Burlington Veterans Services are doing this Veterans Day. There will not be a ceremony in the town common per usual, but they are holding a virtual Veterans Day ceremony to mark the occasion and honor all those who have served.
So obviously today is not Veterans Day. It would be great if it was, because it would probably be the best day that we've had so far. 66 degrees and sunny, not too bad. But unfortunately, with the current pandemic that's going on in our country, we weren't able to have an in-person Veterans Day ceremony, which is probably the first time in over 100 years that this town hasn't done it in person, which is very sad. I understand the town's hesitation in allowing hundreds of people on the common with everything that's going on. So it requires us, but I guess I'm pleased that at least we can put something out on Veterans Day that recognizes veterans and everything that they stand for.
Veterans Day was originally Armistice Day, established to mark the end of World War I on November 11, 1918. In 1954, Congress passed a bill, later signed by President Eisenhower, changing the holiday to Veterans Day to honor all soldiers who had served to defend our nation and its interests.
The day was created to recognize all veterans, not just those of World War I, but also World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, all the veterans that came before World War I, and all of the smaller conflicts like in Bosnia, Kosovo, Panama, So it's a particularly important day for veterans, but also, as people of a country, that we have people that have dedicated their lives and in some cases sacrificed their lives for this very nation and the people that live in it. So it is particularly important to recognize them on Veterans Day, but also every day for that matter.
Finally, Hannafin said he has a message for all veterans on this unusual and difficult Veterans Day in the midst of a pandemic.
I guess on this particular Veterans Day, I'd say keep the faith. We have a lot of veterans, particularly older veterans, that would be categorized in the vulnerable category. And I speak to a lot of them on a daily basis, and they'd like to get out and socialize and mingle and get back to normal. And that requires some effort on everybody here in our nation. So I guess my message to them would be keep the faith. You are in our thoughts and prayers, and I hope to see many of you continuing in the future.
You can find the virtual Burlington Veterans Day ceremony on BCAT and our social media, as well as Veteran Services Facebook page, starting on Wednesday, November 11th. From the Burlington Town Common, I'm BNEWS Director Rich Halsford.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you to all the veterans who have served. The Burlington Board of Selectmen gave a heartfelt honoring of a longtime Burlington detective who retired this week. Detective Gary Redfern of the Burlington Police Department retired on Wednesday, November 5th. The date marked 35 years to the day he was first appointed to the department in 1985. At the request of Police Chief Michael Kent, Redfern was appointed as a special police officer, a position that will allow him to perform such acts as details and security. The chief said Redfern was appointed as a detective on March 14, 2005, and was a perfect fit for the job, calling him one of the most thorough and smartest officers he has ever met. Kent said Redfern handled many of the department's financial crime cases, which he said could be very complex. Members of the board had also glowing words for Detective Redfern. Here is Chairman Joe Morandi.
If you take away the Burlington Police Department, he's the type of guy that you want to hang around with anyway. He's that nice of a person all the way around. You put the police department in there, and he's even a better person because he's helping out with the community, with your break-ins and everything else that happens in this town. He's been a great detective. Can't say enough about the guy. Proud to call him my friend, and I'm very happy that he's going to stay here in town and still do details so we can wave to him, because we really don't get to see the detectives a lot in this town. So, Gary, wish you all the best, my friend. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Detective Redfern. The Burlington Police Department added new members at the Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday night. Chief Michael Kent said in a release he is pleased to announce the Burlington Police Department added 4 highly educated and experienced new members Monday, and that they will report for academy training later this month. All 4 were appointed by Town Administrator Paul Sagarino, and the board voted unanimously to waive the 15-day waiting period for new hires. The 4 will start the Lowell Police Academy on Monday, November 16th. The Police Academy is 24 weeks long and consists of more than 900 hours of a combination of practical and classroom training, certifications, and service to the community, the release states. Some of the classes include first aid, law, applied patrol procedures, firearms, report writing, active shooter training, specialized driving, and self-defense. All in-person trainings are done in compliance with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, guidelines to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The 4 new officers are Officer Daryl Calicchio, of Burlington, Eric Jeske of Wilmington, Thomas Lyons of Burlington, and Nicholas Scola of Billerica. All 4 were appointed on Monday in a virtual ceremony conducted remotely due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Need some new reading material? You might just find some in your neighbor's front yard. BNews reporter Chris Flaherty spoke to some residents who have set up their own free little libraries to share with members of the community.
Recently, residents have been sharing their love of reading with the community by setting up free little libraries right on their front lawns.
My husband does a lot of traveling for work, and when I traveled with him or if we took family trips, I would see these little libraries all over, and I would stop and check it out. Always found something inside, and my family surprised me for my birthday 2.5 years ago.
I grew up in Arlington, and there's quite a few down in the Arlington, Belmont, Cambridge area. There's not a lot around in this area, and so I wanted to put one out in our yard. We live across from a soccer field, and I knew that with people hanging out there that maybe one of the parents would want a book to read, or one of the siblings might get bored and want something to do.
We started a book club with our church last year in the fall, I think. And just from conversation that we were having during the book club, it sort of came up organically from that wouldn't it be a great idea to have a little free library as a way to reach out to the community and share our love of reading with other people.
Through the nonprofit organization Little Free Library, residents can purchase the tools to build their own and register it on their official website. From there, they can personalize their libraries from how it's designed to the books and other materials you can find inside.
We were inspired by another Little Free Library that we saw, and we put a notebook in our library so people can leave us notes. And it's really nice to see people with the notes that they write back to us.
When I put new books, I always put the sign out front so they know new books are in. I try to change them out once a month. But when I was first setting up, my neighbor created a sticker for the inside of my books because I have a theme to my library. My library's drink coffee, read books, be happy. And I just like to keep it decorated so that people will stop and it's eye-catching. And then if they want to sit and read a book or check out the books, I like to have the bench there too.
These little libraries have become the go-to destinations of local neighborhoods.
People just walk by, and I was setting it up yesterday, and the couple said, "Oh, we love stopping by." And I just try to encourage people to stop anytime, even if they've been, because you never know what someone's going to leave. So there's always something new inside.
I think it's been really positive. I had a call from another church asking us, hey, how did you build your little free library? We'd like to do one too. So I think it's just great to see it spill out and continue to grow. Just a way of being a visible presence, even though we're not meeting physically in the building right now.
When we were building the Little Free Library, we had a lot of people very curious stopping and checking it out. And there's definitely been a few people in the neighborhood who have stopped by. It really warms my heart when people come out and I see little kids standing here and looking at the library and checking out the books. And they'll take a few and then they'll bring some back or bring other ones. And it's really heartwarming to see the smiles on their faces.
Free little libraries are a way to share a good read and more with your community.
I think it's a great way of staying connected, of having a visible presence, saying, we're here. We want you to be. We want you to have books and resources to entertain you, to educate you, to make your days more tolerable during the pandemic, and to share those resources with others in the community as well.
One of their themes is always a gift, never for sale. It's called the library only because there's books inside, but you don't ever feel like you have to read it and return it. The idea, too, is to read a book and then maybe pass it along to another little free library.
To be putting something out into the world that doesn't cost anybody anything. Anybody can walk up. I've seen other people in other towns who have little free libraries who put cans of food or baby products, diapers, things like that in there so that people who need something don't have to be embarrassed.
Check out the map on freelittlelibrary.org to see where all the free little libraries are located in Burlington and other surrounding communities. Until next time, this is Chris Flaherty for BNEWS Weekly.
How fun is that? Thank you, Chris. The Burlington Board of Selectmen may soon have a new name. On Monday, board members discussed town meeting warrant articles to change the name to be gender neutral and more inclusive, though what the new name might be will be decided at a later time. Town Administrator Paul Sagarino said modernizing the name of the board has been a point of discussion for several months. In order to make the change, town meeting would have to approve 3 separate articles, including zoning bylaw and general bylaw changes. Sagarino said the town charter may also have to be changed through the state legislature. Members of the board said they were open to changing the name and noted that over 90 other towns have made similar changes. Some of the names up for consideration are Select Board, Town Council, Executive Board, or Executive Council. The board members decided they will consider them and make a decision at their next meeting on November 16th. For 3 years, town officials have worked toward a solution to the B Line's deteriorating ridership and efficiency. With the service's grim economic reality, town meeting voted to not renew the B Line and approved a ride service pilot program proposed by Council on Aging Director Marge McDonald and DPW Director John Sanchez. The town received a $75,000 grant from Mass DOT for the program. Now in effect, the program uses the ride service Lyft and GoGo Grandparent. GoGo Grandparent is a concierge service that can be called for Lyft service by those not adept at using smartphone apps or people without a smartphone. McDonald talked about the program's sluggish launch by saying it was off to a slow start due to the pandemic. The program is for Burlington residents 60 years and older, residents with a proven medical disability, or those at a certain amount below the poverty level. You only need to meet one of these criteria to qualify. Participants pay the first dollar, and the town will cover the next $10 of the ride. Participants will cover any cost beyond $10, and rides must begin or end in Burlington. Lift fares will vary throughout times of the day with the demand for rides. If you add or change destinations mid-ride, you might see a higher charge on your receipt as well. We may think it gets cold around here now, but that's nothing compared to centuries ago. At one time, Burlington and the entire area was covered in glaciers. For a look at how we know this, we go to local historian Mike Trudeau for the latest Burlington history uncovered.
It is a topic of discussion, global warming, global climate change, and how glaciers are receding. Well, they are, and we have proof here in Burlington, right here. This erratic boulder was left here as the glaciers of the last ice age receded about 12,000 years ago. This was probably dragged down from northern New England or perhaps even Quebec. It was being dragged towards the sea, and then as the glaciers receded, it was just left here high and dry. The glaciers, many thousands of years ago, were up to a mile thick in this area. They'd push down with a pressure of millions of pounds per square foot. A rock like this would be picked up and carried along just like dust in a stream would be today. Then as the glaciers stopped moving, as they melted and receded, this was simply dropped right here where it was, just deposited. This, along with most of the field stone we know of here in New England, was left by the glaciers. We have more evidence of the glaciers which passed this way many thousands of years ago. These striations here in the bedrock along the ridgeline of Bannon Hill, we're overlooking Route 128 in this direction, Route 3 over this way. These grooves, these cuts in the rock, these were made by small rocks, pebbles even, which were being pushed down into the bedrock by a sheet of ice perhaps a mile thick, pushing down with millions of pounds of pressure per square foot. And as the glacier moved, it scraped them along the bedrock and carved their passing. This is not the only place in Burlington that you can find striations like this. You don't have to come to the landlocked forest. You can also find them here at Simon's Park, right in the middle of town. And they line up pretty much exactly with the others, about 85, 90 degrees, going due east. These striations can also be found across town above the reservoir in an outcropping. But again, you would find them on a geologic formation like this, outcropping of bedrock right along a ridge line of a hill. This is the best place to find glacier striations here in New England.
Pretty cool. No pun intended. Thanks, Mike. The Parks and Recreation Department is well into their fall season, but plans could change. In the latest Parks and Rec update, Director Brendan Egan talks with reporter Robert Paris about the new COVID-19 guidelines.
back here for another Burlington Parks and Recreation COVID-19 update. Brendan's waiting for us on the other side. So, Brendan, how you doing today?
Doing okay. Not ready for the cold yet, that's for sure.
So first off, let's talk a little about how Trucktober went.
As you know, we made it a more mobile event. It was at both Wildwood Park at Rahanis Park and Simons Park, and I think it was well attended. I think people, we had put out the information ahead of time. You could pre-order. The menus were out there, so I think people took advantage of that. And we hit a nice day, so people were able to grab their food and go out and space out in one of the parks or take it with them and enjoy it. But it really went well.
So Governor Baker did announce some new executive orders the other day. So let's talk about how the Parks and Recreation events are going to affect that.
So we've been going through them, and obviously we're going to follow all of the guidance as we have been throughout the whole process. And as more come out, and it affects us in a greater way, we will be making modifications to our programs. But our staff really is ready to go. In their offering, our program offerings have been both virtual and in person, and a mix of both. And we'll be able to, make that switch to virtual if we have to.
And lastly, to end our conversation, Brendan, what do you hope to see as we continue into this pandemic?
Well, let's hope that's right around the corner. Be excited to get to 2021 because 2020 has been, fair to say, a wash for everybody. Hasn't been a great year, but I think trying to be optimistic and positive.
Well, Brendan, I want to thank you for coming on for another Burlington Parks and Recreation COVID-19 update.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Brendan. The Burlington Red Devils are battling hard in this altered sports season. For all the latest, we go to BNEWS sports reporter Liz Gillespie for this week's sports report.
Hey everyone, I'm Liz Gillespie for your weekly sports report. With just a few weeks left in the fall sports seasons, teams are still doing well despite having a modified season. And we have the scoops of what's happened, so let's get to it. First, girls varsity soccer played against the Watertown Red Raiders at the Marshall Simons Middle School brush field on Monday. The Lady Devils lost in a close match of 1-2. Burlington drops to 0-5-1 on the season and will head to Melrose to take on the Red Raiders on Saturday, November 7th. Boys varsity soccer also faced Watertown on Monday at Victory Field. The Red Devils headed home with a victory against the Red Raiders with a final of 4-2. Goals in the game were made by juniors Ethan Baldessera with 2, junior Dom Porter with 1, and another by sophomore Simon Rizaghi. The boys will play Melrose on Saturday, November 7th at Marshall Simons Middle School. This game will be live streamed on our BCAT Facebook page at 9 a.m. The team record moves to 2-3 on the season. The Red Devils golf team had their final match of the season against the Red Raiders at the Billerica Country Club on Tuesday, October 27th. The team came out in a victory of 50-22. The team finished the year with a 6-3 record. Good luck to all the seniors with their endeavors. Boys and girls cross country will be facing the Melrose Red Raiders on Saturday, November 7th. Boys will be in Burlington while the girls will be in Melrose. The Red Devils are 3-0 on the season and the girls are 1-2. Lady Devils field hockey had a Monday evening matchup against the Watertown Red Raiders, and we have some highlights, so let's check those out.
It was a blustery evening as the Burlington Lady Devils field hockey team faced off against the Watertown Red Raiders on Monday, November 2nd at the BHS Varsity Field. Now, let's get to the highlights. In the first period alone, the Red Raiders put up 5 unanswered goals on the board. Two additional goals were made in the second period by Watertown. Your final in this one was 7-0 Watertown.
The girls will face the Melrose Red Raiders on Saturday, November 7th in Melrose. The girls' record drops to 2-4 on the season. For more Red Devil action, go to the BNEWS Sports Hub page at bcattv.org. And that's all for your weekly sports report. I'm Liz Gillespie. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Liz. It's been nice and warm the last few days. To see if this trend will continue, we go to BNews weatherman Peter Brown for the latest forecast. We'll also check out the community calendar back with Liz Gillespie to see what's happening in Burlington.
Well, hello everyone. This is Peter Brown with a look at your weather for the next 7 days. I know it's hard to believe that we are heading into the first week of November. We had some really interesting weather to finish out our period last week where we saw quite a bit of snow. So that was something that we really were not expecting to see that much of. We were expecting more in the way of a dusting, and many areas around the Burlington area saw about 5.5, almost 6 inches of snow. So one of the largest snowfalls in October for the Burlington area. But when we started to look at our period coming up, we are going to be anything but winter-like, which is a real welcome sign for those of us who love the warm weather. And again, starting out with a look at our almanac starting on Friday. Look at this, our temperatures we're expecting to be way up in the upper 60s to near 70s, so some great weather for early November. And if you're going out at night at all, not going to be too cold. Temperatures, probably about 10 degrees above where they should be at this time of year on the mid to upper 40s. So pleasant out there, even if you have to be out at night. And as we round out our period, getting into the middle of November, I know it's hard to really wrap your mind around that already, but again, our average highs at that time of the year are only supposed to be in the low 50s, and we're probably going to be about maybe 10 to 15 degrees above that. So some real warm weather coming in. And of course, since we've turned our clocks back, unfortunately, though, if you are out in the afternoon, the sun is going down now around 4:30 in the afternoon, so the days continue to get shorter, and especially when we're at night, we can really see that the taste of winter is heading towards us. Now, as we go ahead, let's take a look at what the Climate Prediction Center is calling for us here in the Burlington area in terms of precipitation and temperature. And looking at our temperature map, this is something, again, that we've seen that's been more typical for this year. We're going to be expecting in the Burlington area and most of New England, actually most of the eastern U.S., a very high chance of seeing above average temperatures. And in fact, here in the New England area, we'll have a very, very high chance of seeing that. And that will be reflected in the 7 days when we look at that in a couple of moments. Now, as we go ahead and we take a look at what the Climate Prediction Center is calling for us in terms of precip, again, looks like we're going to be maybe average. I don't really think we're going to be. I think it's going to be pretty dry for the next 7 days here in the Burlington area. But we really have been making some inroads on that drought with all of that heavy snow that we had and the heavy rain that we had right before it. So that's some great news. Now, as we go ahead and look at the 7 day next, there's really not much I have to say here. Looks like the temperatures are going to be fairly uniform from Friday all the way through to the end of our period next Thursday. Temperatures, again, ranging from the mid to upper 60s, and even on Sunday we'll be approaching 70. So some beautiful weather out there, maybe a chance of some showers as we get towards the end of the period as a cold front starts to approach us, but it doesn't look like there's going to be too much cold air behind that front either. So everyone, get out there, have a great week, and enjoy the beautiful weather here in November.
Get ready to enjoy some Red Devil classics. Until Burlington football returns, we'll be showcasing some of the Red Devils' greatest hits from past seasons, featuring post-game analysis from former voice of the Red Devils, Phil Licaro. We have a full season of Red Devil classics coming your way. Look for New Games Weekly on BCAT's education channel.
Hi, I'm Liz Gillespie, and this is your community calendar. Thank you for your service. The Hair Saloon in Burlington will be offering a complimentary classic haircut for veterans and active duty military men on Veterans Day. Appointments are encouraged. Visit hairsaloon.com to book online or call 781-778-3300. Get creative during the fall season. The Burlington Public Library is having a DIY beaded harvest corn. Everyone is welcome to receive the supplies. Sign up online at burlington.org, and curbside pickup is on Friday, November 13th from 10:15 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Who doesn't love pie? The Burlington Community Scholarship Foundation is having a Thanksgiving pie fundraiser. All orders must be placed online by November 14th, and order pickup will be on November 21st at BHS. All proceeds will benefit the Adopted Class 2030. For pickup times and pies, go to tickettailor.com/events/BCSF. I'm Liz Gillespie, and that was your community calendar.
I love pie. Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Peter. Another week, another photo to highlight. This week's photo is from a day in the garden. It was sent in by Sharon Bergeron and shows her son Jason, age 9, with the mums in their garden. She said the plants were coming in well thanks to some recent rain before the photo was taken in mid-October. Let's hope they fared well through the snow we received recently. Thanks for the photo, Sharon. We'd like to see your photos. They could be of your fall activities, a family trip, or just everyday moments, whatever you think is interesting and want to share. Email your photos to bcat@bcattv.org with the subject line, Photo of the Week. Well, that's it for this week's edition of BNEWS Weekly. I'm Linda McNamee. Have a fun and safe weekend, and I'll see you around town.